got the names and I didn't really care to. I just want the money, so the mission I adhere to is simple. I join some resistance clique, blow up the reactor, then we split, that's it. And they go on about saving the planet, all the precious resources.
What's good, everyone? Welcome to another episode of GAMERZ411. I am your host. Tonight we have T Hill and Dragon, so we're a little light on the crew tonight, but that's okay. We're going to have yourself a good show tonight. We're going to move right through it pretty quickly tonight. Topics tonight, we're going to go right down the list. iOS leaked controller patent last week. This is something that pertains to me. Everybody else, we all know, I'm a huge Apple fan. Love their products, always have, always will. A lot of the, I like to call them the trolls on N4G, sometimes like to bitch and say that Apple's ruining gaming and doing this, doing that, and they're doing things they shouldn't be. But you know what? If Apple is a legitimate company who's going to step into the gaming world, and they've already done a 180, meaning going around behind people with the touchscreen casual gaming, why not add a controller for the hardcores? They can patch the controller in, you can play touchscreen, or you can play it on your controller. I have no problem with this. Again, this is another one of the many patents that Apple files. Does it mean it's going to happen? I don't know. Would I like to see it happen? Hell yes, absolutely. And there's nothing stopping for Apple to do something like that. Just to add a controller in, patch it to their top games, or they can patch them to pretty much every game out there right now. Then give the gamers a choice if you want to play it on your iPad, using your fingers on the go, or you want to go home, prop it up on the stand, and bust out the Bluetooth iController, or whatever they decide to call it. I like the idea. So if it happens, great, let's bring it on. If not, hey, it's just another patent that Apple did to cover their tracks. But Travis, what do you think about something like that? Because I know you don't play too many iOS games, and I've been trying to talk you to lately to get into it. But seriously, bro, say they added a Bluetooth controller that's in between the 360 PS3 controller. Would you be down to play some iOS games just to check it out at least?
First, I'd need to buy like a tablet or something. Playing it on my iPhone, it just ain't gonna happen. But
a little small.
It's too small. But if I buy a tablet or a Mac or whatever, I would probably try it because one, games look better. Games look better on the Retina screens. The Retina displays just look better than even mine. I spent like four racks on that TV, and the Retina screen kills it. So I would definitely play because it's just gonna look sexy. It really depends about the content, because even they'd have to start designing games with the controller in mind. And right now, everything is designed with touchscreen in mind, which is little more than Connect and on Rails experiences. They're fun, they look cool. I've watched a lot of video over the last, especially since you've been telling me, but none of it is you have run around control. There's only one or two games that have it, but they're based off of touch on the screen, and they're just not as responsive as I'd like. Now, if they were designed with a controller in mind, that would be a totally different story, because then you're going head to head with an actual console.
Well, I got to be honest with you, man. Touchscreen games were the same way in the beginning, but I've gotten kind of used to it to where, dude, I'm pretty damn awesome with playing a shooter on touchscreen controllers. Yes, I wouldn't want to go head-to-head with someone online with a touchscreen against a controller. No, but it's not as hard as people think.
No, I'm not meaning like that. What I mean with it is the design decisions. You can tell they were designed with the touchscreen in mind.
Oh yeah.
That's cool right now. But if they made more games designed with a controller in mind, and they were just happen to be on like an iPad or an iOS game, hey, sign me up. I'll buy one, because
I can see Apple doing it, especially with some of their exclusive
Epic.
Easily Epic, exactly, coming out with a game like Infinity Blade or whichever one they want to come out with both controls. You can use it. The casual gamers can just use the touchscreen, or if someone wants to get a hardcore, they can buy the controller and add it in, and the patches there already from day one. That would be cool. And I said this not too long ago. I said, listen, if Apple added this controller, because a lot of people say, oh, their games don't look as great as 360 and PS3. Well, no shit. It's a freaking 10% of the cost for development. But if you had a hardcore controller added on, then the big boys would throw in a badass, like a real Call of Duty, a real Battlefield, because you know what, the horsepower is there.
Yeah,
it's there. It's there. But when they're making money hand over fist and only putting in 5 to to 10% of the budget that they're using for these AAA games today, of course these games are not going to look like that. But I mean, like that video I sent you today of Dead Space on iOS, dude, it's incredible. Max Payne, original Max Payne, redid in HD, looks better on iOS devices than it did when it came out on the PC and Xbox 10 years ago. Of course, it's 10 years, technology is booming. But I'm saying, but for a phone game or a tablet game, for what they can do nowadays, I mean, the new iPad. I have the new iPad, dual core, a four core, quad core processor, gig of RAM, a badass new proprietary graphics card. I mean, the horsepower is there, but the budget behind it enough for the hardcore crowd is not there. So, like I said, this is just another rumor coming through. I was going to say with Dragon, what do you think about this? You down with an iOS controller leak? You think that'd be something you could play?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it might actually get me to get back into playing them on some of the games on there.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them are pretty good, but there's a lot of the games just don't have the controls that I would like.
Yeah, there's no question. Well, because you're a hardcore gamer, you want that hardcore experience. You want that precision aiming with either shooting. But like iOS games in the beginning were like Angry Birds and stuff like that. They were just a casual. They are starting to dip now more into the hardcore and start hardcore-ish for a phone or an iPad game. But let me tell you something. My favorite game to play on the iPad right now has got to be Zen Pinball. It is exactly like you would get on a console version right now. You ever played Zen Pinball?
Hell no.
I've played.
Oh, it's great. I love Zen. Shut up. It's good. So, anyways.
If you think he's a core gamer, that shit just went out the window.
Dude. And you try to say I only play shooters? There's my variety right there, bitch. Anyways.
Yeah, Call of Duty and Zen Pitball. You're in a category, all right. I don't know if it's one I'd want to be in.
All right. Anyway, so let's move on, man. Now, Travis, this is your big topic: Resident Evil 6 trailer and info. Take over. Go.
So, no game this year or last year has shut down the internet for the gaming industry like Resident Evil 6 has. I mean. Oh, you're gonna challenge me on that? Because I've been on this news. I mean, it has been blowing up. I don't care. Mass Effect 3, nope, didn't do it. Battlefield 3, nope, didn't do it. Nothing has shut down and spurned so many other articles and news pieces because of the crazy shit that's going on with Capcom right now. People might call them Crapcom, whatever, but when was the last time a company of that caliber has said, okay, we're going to stop doing everything else right now, and we're going to put all of our resources into one game. The might of one company on one title. Not Activision, not EA, not Ubisoft, not any other developers ever put all the resources. And it goes to show. I mean, graphically, it's going toe-to-toe with the best of the best.
It is. It does look good from what I've seen.
I mean, the latest HD trailer, I could say it's fucking with Uncharted. It's fucking with Uncharted 3. And
are they showing any actual footage playing?
It's all in game.
Yeah, it's all in game, but they're showing it all on trailers though, right?
Yeah, they're just cutting it up because what happened was at Captivate, I think it was last week. Everything was under embargo until the 10th. The 10th dropped. We got the trailer. You find out so much more who the mystery guy is, the blonde girl. Her name's it's Sherry from Part 2. We find out that the mystery guy is actually Alex Wesker's son, or Albert Wesker's son. And they give him his actual name. I can't remember what it is. I read the article today and watched the 2 game trailers pieces on it. But the game has 800 people working on this title. 125 dedicated and 600 plus from around the globe are all contributing to make this game what it is. And from what we know so far, the AI, and I could believe this with the resources they're throwing into it. If it was anything else, I probably wouldn't believe it. But they said because it's drop in, drop out co-op, you will not know unless the human player sucks garbage. If it plays like average like you and me, if I were to drop out, you won't know when the AI takes over. Because they said that's fucking good. When was the last time you had an AI that actually did its job? Like, really, really did its job? Healed you when you needed to. Not too soon. Not too early. Not too late. Was always covering your back when you needed it. And didn't, get in the way. And that's so important when you have an NPC, a second player. They're really focusing in on enhancing all the aspects that were weak in Part 5. So with Leon, there's 3 different pretty much primary campaigns that all converge into one. Leon's campaign is a very traditional Resident Evil, like 1, 2, and 3 experience. It's, horror, not as action-paced. It's more about getting that gripping feeling, like get you in those moments. So people who love that scare factor and say that Dead Space just beat the shit out of them and took their crown, they're going to be shut up. They already said that this is his campaign is all about bringing that scare factor back. Now, Chris Redfield's campaign is, the Michael Bay budget kind of action over the top, really get you drama. The stuff that the people who enjoyed Resident Evil 5 and loved what it had to offer with all the action and, kind of where Part 4 took off and 5 kept going, that's what Chris is going to really explore with his campaign. Now, with Albert Wesker's son,
Now, wait, hold on a second. There's different characters you play in this game, like different story modes?
There's 6 characters.
And you play all 6 throughout the campaign or the story mode?
Throughout the story mode. So the way it works is every character, so there's a primary character for each one of the campaigns. With Leon, it's Leon and this chick named Helena Harper. You might have seen her in the trailer. She's the brunette, the raven-haired lady that he's like picking up and he's escorting her around. That's Helena Harper. She was with the White House there to, be on duty for the president. She's the backup. How in part, what was it, 4? Part 5, you had Sheva. So she's the Sheva, but a lot smarter and everything else. With Chris, he actually has a partner who's a sniper, and it just came out today, so I was reading it, and I can't remember all their names. I could look it up if I had time, but so he's got the sniper who's another BSA agent, and with Albert Wesker's son, he's got Sherry from Resident Evil 2. She's grown up and, she's working with, I think she's a part of the government as an agent, and it goes into this whole detail. I don't want to ruin it. If you guys want to go check it out, there's plenty of sources on the web to get details on her. But each one of the campaigns has a secondary character, but they focus in on elements of the franchise that people love, so that way no person is jaded. No one's going to walk away from the experience and say this is garbage, it didn't offer me what I wanted. If you want to play a horror game, you can play it. If you want to play an action game, you can get it. Now, if you want something that's a hybrid of the both that makes you always feel like you're being chased, but yet you can still kick ass, then you're going to play as Albert Wesker's Jr.'s experience. He's more of a action-packed, but still has the horror suspense, so it's somewhere in between the extremes. It's not like polar opposites, but on top of that, what they're doing with the culmination, and I honestly believe that Part 5 was the conclusion of Albert Wesker's experience, and I think that Part 6 is, I was talking with Blacksmith, I think this is the culmination of Ada Wong's storyline. And it might even, because they're going all in, we kind of speculated that this might be the end of the Resident Evil franchise as we know it. All the old characters, this might be the last of them we see them. We might not see Chris or Leon ever again. And that might be why they're bringing in Helena Harper and Albert Wesker's son and bringing Sherry into the fold. This might be the reason. So, in all honesty, I've never, ever seen a game just everyone go frothing at the mouth, and I'm frothing at the mouth. I mean, I've never had this kind of buzz for a title. How do you guys feel, with what you've read, what you've seen, and what I put forward? How do you guys feel about this title? I mean, does it have a chance to slap GTA 5 in the mouth? I mean, is it going to put BioShock Infinite on its ass? I mean,
I think it's too early to tell. Well, listen, if Resident Evil 5 was incredible. The graphic engine was there. The gameplay was there. Yes, you couldn't shoot and walk at the same time, but obviously that's fixed in this game. Far as a big heavy hitter, I think it's a little too early to tell, to be quite honest with you. I think they got a lot of heavy hitters to deal with this year. I mean, we don't know if GTA 5 is coming out this year. That could be a spring release, because you know how Rockstar is. They want their own time slot. They don't want to go in the holiday season, so we don't know about that. BioShock Infinite, I don't know. That's another tough one, but I think it's going to be awesome. But I don't know if a Resident Evil game could be the king of all games for 2012. To be quite honest with you, Travis. I mean, I know everybody. There's people out there, the fans that want it to be that way. But in this day and age, I mean, hell, who would ever thought a milked out franchise like Call of Duty does what it does every year?
Well, I'm not talking sales wise. I'm talking about caliber of title.
Oh well, I mean. If you want to talk about color, don't forget
Call of Duty's already out. Call of Duty's already out.
Oh yeah, I understand it, but don't forget you got also a game called Max Payne 3 coming out that looks incredible.
Yeah,
Ghost Recon.
Look at the content. I mean, it's less than a month away, and
right.
There's not that kind of buzz. And even when it was unveiled, there was never. I mean, it's a good franchise. It's one of the top franchises from Rockstar, but realistically, even if you go outside of the gaming culture. What other title holds weight like Resident Evil? Outside, if you go outside, there's only like maybe one or two.
Oh, dude, I grew up with Resident Evil. You got to tell me.
That's what I'm thinking. You know, a lot of people are seeing what's going on, and their faith is going crazy because they're seeing like, holy shit, Crapcom is gone and Capcom's kicking fucking teeth in.
Yeah, I think Resident Evil is going to be a phenomenal game. There's just so many great. The one thing I like about this year of gaming compared to last year, just more quality titles coming out instead of abundance of mediocre.
True. Yeah, last year was good, but I mean, it just seems like this year's killing it.
Yeah, well, last year was good. There was a lot of more sequels, a little bit more more emphasis on Call of Duty, you know, stuff like that. Well, we all know Black Ops 2 is just about ready to be talked about, which is, you know. Yeah. Yawn. I think even some of the hardcore Call of Duty guys are kind of like, oh god, more of the same. But you know, but then we just got this year's gonna be. Travis, it's gonna be an interesting year. I mean, it really is. I'm excited. I mean, there's a lot of variety of games coming out. A lot of third-person shooters. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Well, and it's a good time. I think people are kind of getting overtaxed on the FPSs.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm so burned out on them. That's why I'm very. Choosy this year when it comes to FPS. Like I'm happy Max Payne is third person as usual. Ghost Recon is third person. You know, I'm excited for that. Starhawk is going to be third person. I personally like third person a little better. I feel more connected to the character.
So Dragon, what do you think about you know, how are you feeling about Resident Evil? I mean, are you pumped? How do you think it stacks up against the top titles of the year? I mean, who's going to give it its real run for its money in your eyes?
It's going to be a pretty good competitor overall. I mean, it looks pretty good. I'm assuming they're still using MT framework as their engine, which is ever since I've seen that engine, it looks like it's pretty good. I don't see why they don't use it on all their games.
Is it aren't they using it for? Well, no, not the new one. I know they used it for the last Lost Planet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Lost Planet 3. We forgot about that.
Yeah, but we got a packed night to talk about.
No, we don't. All right, let's keep it rolling, man. Let's go right down the list now. Next one today. Finally, they showed Medal of Honor Warfighter gameplay footage. Now, did you guys get a chance to see that?
Yes.
Looks absolutely incredible. I'm so glad that they're using the Frostbite engine and the modified one at that. And from what I've seen so far, I love it. I think it's going to be great. I mean, to me, that's the original Call of Duty. Don't forget, those guys were the original guys who worked at, who designed and made the first Call of Duty game before they all split apart. And these guys are great. I had a chance to meet them at E3 this past year. Very cool, very passionate guys. But one thing I like about what they're doing, and this is another reason why I'm like a big fan with Battlefield games, is that they're going more for the realistic today, what's going on. You know, they're not doing the Call of Duty crazy over-the-top scenarios, you know, with a nuke going off, World War III, freaking Russian ships invading New York Harbor. They're not doing any of that. They're doing real-life situations and all over the world, too, because if you look at the trailer, it looks like they're going to be in the Philippines, they're going to be in Tibet, they're going to be in the Middle East, they're going to even look like there's some parts they might be in Russia. So this game, they're definitely open to. This could be a big door for EA to finally, you know, get their FPS game that they've always wanted. I mean, Battlefield 3 is definitely one of them, but I think Medal of Honor has the experience to go after a Call of Duty. But then again, nowadays people don't want realism. You know, they want the over-the-top cookie cutter games. But anyways, Travis, what did you think about the trailer? Did you see anything you didn't like, or did you think this is going to be the Medal of Honor we've been waiting for?
So here's my take on it, and I haven't had a chance to overly scrutinize it because I'm a big guy on, especially with EA after the Battlefield fiasco. I want to scrutinize it again to see if they're showing us the PC version again. because
Yeah, true.
you know, after them coming on saying this and this and this and this, it looks gorgeous. It's obviously running on what is it, the Frostbite engine, and it looks gorgeous. Very cinematic, very action packed. The trailer just sells you. It really, like, you know me, I'm not into the military shooters, and I'm like, damn, this looks tight. This looks tight. Nice lighting, great combat. You know, I think what they're doing is they're, instead of doing what Activision is doing with Call of Duty year after year, they're going to be bouncing back and forth between Medal of Honor, because what was it? Last year was Battlefield. The year before was Medal of Honor, right?
I got no problem with that.
And I think what they're doing is having both teams work in tandem, but two different franchises using the same engine, which means, okay, we learned, we bumped our heads here. We're going to take those experiences and fix it in the next title.
Well, don't forget, EA funded the Frostbite engine, so DICE just you know, worked on and designed it, but EA put all the money in it, saying, listen, design this engine, but there's going to be other people using it. Like the Need for Speed was using the new Frostbite engine, so that was cool.
I just think, what, not so much from the graphics. I think they're going to smooth out the graphics because, you know, it didn't run as smooth on the PS3 as they try to pump it up to be. So I'm sure that they learned a little bit from that. But I'm talking about more like the online experience, the issues. They had some growing pains. You have to. I think everyone admits that with the Battlefield 3, they had some growing pains they had to go through. It was a good experience, but it just wasn't as some even lesser competitors that shouldn't have been real competitors like Call of Duty were really actually competing with them in that space on a real level and actually beating them in a lot of successes. Now, once they got it going, I mean, yeah, they did a foo bar recently, but once they got it going, people are going crazy over it. Now, what I'm seeing in this latest trailer, it's like looks like they're learning a lot from their experiences with Battlefield 3, and hopefully it's a more polished product. As an FPS goes, I as a military FPS, I think it could be like the big Battlefield 3 of this year. I think, I don't know how it's going to do sales-wise against Call of Duty. It's a whole total different discussion. But for core gamers who want real content, I think it's going to be the FPS for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like again, for me, I'm not into the over-the-top, fast-paced shooters like the Call of Duties are. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Call of Duty games, but if I had to choose one or the other, dude, please give me Battlefield or the new Medal of Honor any day of the week, man. Something with a little more skill, a little more realism to it. That's why I'm still partial to all the older Ghost Recons and Rainbow games. Those games had it all. But
you like Rainbows?
Oh, I loved Rainbow Six. That was a great game.
Oh, I just meant Rainbows because you said Rainbow. So
yeah, I eat Skittles once in a while. But anyways, all right. Before we move on, here goes another great topic. But I was going to ask Dragon, did you see Medal of Honor? Are you interested?
Oh yeah, I'm interested.
Cool.
I actually enjoyed the last one that came out.
Same here.
I mean, I'm kind of glad that they're moving on. They're actually using the Frostbite engine and moving away from that Unreal 3 engine that they used on the last one.
Yeah, well, last time they used Unreal Engine 3 for the single player, and then they used the old Frostbite 1 for the multiplayer, because DICE handled that. So now they're using one unified engine and an AMP engine too, from what I understand. So I'm pretty excited about that. So yeah, it's going to be great. I just can't wait to see actual a good 5-10 minute clip of.
I hope the single player. Hopefully, they make that better than what Battlefield 3 ended up being.
Dude, I gotta be honest with you. I love Battlefield 3 single player because of the realism and the pace of it. They weren't trying to go over the top, crazy Michael Bay Call of Duty, which a lot of people didn't understand. See, that's the problem with Call of Duty. It kind of ruined what those guys were trying to do with Battlefield 3 single player because everybody wanted to see that over the top, crazy Call of Duty single players, and that's not what those guys are about. And the same thing's going to happen with Medal of Honor. Medal of Honor may even be more realistic. So
that's not the problem I had with it. I played the game on hard the first time. The AI just isn't that great in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Real talk, I'd have to say the only game that has stellar AI, and you guys can tell me what you think, has to be the Fear franchise. I think that has I think Fear has the best AI in game.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen any enemies react the way they do, and the NPCs react the way they do. I mean, it's almost believable. I mean, the way that and I know this is way off topic, but very few games capture it where in an FPS where they're kicking over shit, moving stuff out of their way to get to you, instead of just like, these kind of almost prescripted paths where, okay, if he goes this way, I have these options. No, they were interacting with the environment to maneuver themselves into position to take advantage. They weren't just like, okay, I'll go around this table. No, they would slide over the table, push over like a shelf or whatever. There's very few games that do that, and I wouldn't knock Battlefield for it so much because you look across the industry. I mean, between the Resistance, Crysis, Call of Duty, none of them are overly intelligent. They're all scripted kind of maneuvers. They don't dynamically adjust based on the scenario that's being put before them. I mean, if I move over here, are they going to move over to a position that defends my position? No. I mean, and the flanking maneuvers, it's not always the same.
Right. Well, I mean, every engine and every developer has different ways of tweaking the AI to do different things. But you also remember, too, I think the hardware that we're running on right now is not advanced enough to do the AI that these developers really want to do now. Don't forget, we're also, not to change subjects, but we're starting to get a little bit too late into console life cycles where the development's heads and ideas are too big now for what we're running. In the future, I think we're going to see adaptive AI. I think we're going to see AI react to your movements. They're going to be sneakier. They're not going to be so scripted. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with AI.
To your point, and I think what it is it's not so much that we can't do it, because obviously the Fear franchise this generation has shown that they can do it. I think what it is time and finances. I think they have to pick what their measure is, and right now everything's graphics. So they put most of their eggs in that basket, and less of the eggs in the AI basket. And I think, next generation, the hard will allow them to do both easier. Right. I think that's what it is right now, is the current generation consoles can do one or the other really well. And right now, everyone's like, I want the prettiest game possible. So something's got to take a hit. It's either depth of content, AI, replayability. Something's going to get hit somewhere. And they'd rather it not be the graphics.
True. That's true. Yeah. So, anyways, all right, guys, let's go on to our next topic. What do you guys think about Crysis 3 being leaked earlier? I'm still, and I'll give my 2 cents, and then we'll go down the list and see what you guys think. But Crysis 3 being leaked a little early, I think it's a little too early to even talk about Crysis 3, because Crysis 2 just came out last year. It did pretty well. It was a good game. It was a good single player. I enjoyed it. The multiplayer was pretty cool, a little short-lived in my book, but I just find it kind of odd that EA is leaking Crysis 3 so early for a 2013 release on this gen consoles. What do you think about that, Dragon?
It might be kind of early, but the last 2 games are pretty good, but I really don't know what to say about it. I think it might be kind of early for it. I was hoping for that possibly coming out on the next systems.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of hoping to do. But you know what? They are, well, I mean, the screenshot already came out, or at least the trailer poster showing him using that electronic torque bow. So that's obviously not a fake. So maybe a lot of people were saying that it could have been Homefront 2 made by Crytek, which I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon, but we all know that's in development. So I was blown away to see Crysis 3 being announced, or at least leaked, and supposedly next week is when they're going to talk about it. So, I mean, Travis, what do you think? Crysis 3, you think they're really going to announce it next week, or it just could be something like a little decoy?
I don't know if it's going to be, the release is going to be next week, but here's the thing. I don't know what you guys know about the Cry engine that they developed for the latest generation of games, for Crysis 2 and when they remade Crysis 1. The way the engine works is they can pretty much create shit on the fly, whereas a lot of games they have to craft everything from the ground up. If they want to make a tree, they have to have modelers come in and make that tree and then apply physics to it. And yes, they build engines to do the physics and stuff, but it's not like where they can paint on a canvas and then trees will show up. The way the Cry engine, I think it's CryEngine 3 or CryEngine 2, whatever the latest version of their engine is, and not the one that they're demoing. Is it the third one? Because I know it's not the one.
So, yeah.
But the latest one they're using for consoles, it allows them to pretty much do terrain deformation, painting landscapes on the fly. and real time. So a lot of the shit that other developers have to build from the ground up, they don't have to do. They don't have to allocate all those resources to doing shit because they have designed their engine to do a lot of that shit dynamically and creatively with all the physics and everything incorporated in. And that's one of the things that's really, you know, I'll say this, as much on like the finer detail aspects, the CryEngines don't really deliver, but it's on the grand scheme that the CryEngine delivers, because the overall scope of their set pieces, the quality of the set pieces are of such high caliber, and it's because their engine, they can do it on the fly and have less and spend more time on tweaking it instead of building it from the ground up. And then and that's, you know, there's so much resources when you build everything from the ground up. But if you can just paint a mountain and then paint over that trees and then, you know, paint a river through it, and just that saves you so much time. So do I believe that they could do a Crysis 3 this year? Hell yeah, because realistically, the time that's going to be put into building the set pieces is going to be so much smaller than everything else, because they can build them faster. And the way their engine works, they can demo it out real time, render it through their pipeline on PC, Xbox 360, and PS3 same time. So there's no porting, there's no recoding. The engine does it for them right there. They have some advantages with their engine that no other developer, I think Epic has it with their Unreal Engine 3 or Unreal Engine 4 or whatever. It can do something similar, but not the rendering and construction at the same time. They can see it all in the same pipeline, but not all at once. And that gives them an advantage to do things that no other developer can do. Produce games faster, because think about it. They took Crysis 2, came out, and then within months, and we're talking about within months, they had Crysis 1 completely redone in the new engine on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360.
Yep. Actually, it's funny you said it. I just started Crysis 1 today.
and you know, that's crazy. How long should that really take? That shit, you're remastering a game in a new engine, and a game that's supposed to be such a powerhouse, a resource powerhouse, that it can only be done on PCs, but then it just gets banged out in a couple months on a console.
I was surprised that Crysis 1 was remade and put on consoles as a downloadable game right off that soon after Crysis 2 came out. I was like, really? That quick? I mean, I'm sure they worked on it, you know, before Crysis 2 even came out. I'm sure
it's the power of the engine that allows them to do it that quickly.
Yeah, and you know what? That's great. Crysis 3, bring it on. If it's ready to go and it's ready for next year, you know, because obviously we'll have to admit next year is pretty much the last year for this current gen of consoles. I mean, once the announcements of the next two consoles next year, it's going to be pretty much lights out. Everybody's going to be focused that way. So
it'll be the decline. I think we'll get our swan song titles next year. I think next year will be the swan song titles, and then it'll just fade off into the distance.
Right, like I said, this year I think we're just going to hear more chatter, but I think next year is just going to be a couple of heavy hitters, and then it's going to be all next gen and time to go. But Crysis 3, I'm excited. I mean, I want to see the official announcement. I want to see the official gameplay, the trailer, a possible timeline of a release date, or I'm sure they'll do another beta like they did with number 2. Should be interesting. So let's see what happens. So, but other than that, let's move on to our final topic of the night. On-disc lock DLC. Now, that's something that's been going on for years. Now, I know developers won't admit it, that there's DLC locked on disc, but sometimes it gets revealed, and they say they had to put it on there for time constraints and all this other blah, 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 blah. It doesn't really bother me too much that they do that. I know people are pissed off and offended by it, but, at the end of the day, if that's what they do and they make a little extra money on it, and and it's cheaper for them to put on disc instead of going through, Xbox Live or PSN servers. So be it. I don't care. But there's a lot of people that are not happy about it. In fact, let's go with Dragon to start off this one. Dragon, what do you think about this? I know this is your topic tonight, but is that something you're cool with it, or you think it's just total bullshit? I'm
not the biggest fan of it. I mean, I know that they want to make a little extra money on it. It's a lot. Most of the times, it's not critical to the game and all the other stuff. But most games go for $60. But if you go to I import a lot of games from Japan. They vary in prices quite a bit. And what I'm getting from these developers is that they think all the content on that game is worth more than the $60 that they're asking for. Maybe they got to start trying to vary the prices a little bit. I know that most gamers probably aren't ready to accept games that are higher than $60, but it seems like the developers, they feel that those games are worth more than what they're currently asking for.
Well, there's no question about it. I mean, there's a lot. Look at all the heavy hitters that came out last year that were retail $59.99, and they were selling just like the games that were getting like 6 and 7s on reviews, and the quality, like an Uncharted. Uncharted is a $60 game, but then you had other games that came out earlier that were $60 and were half the quality and half the value of Uncharted, but yet they get the same price. So I see what you're saying on that one, but I've talked about this before with various people about this, and I know Sony has dabbled with the idea of coming out with $99 quadruple A titles in the future for, they talked about doing it on the PS3. We've never seen that happen. The next rumored PS Orbs, will they do something like that? I don't know. I think the industry is locked and loaded for one set price. I think the quality of games are going to vary depending on the market and the budget they put into the games. But, you got to understand, too, I mean, if you put a game in that's high quality, has a lot of polish, has a lot of resources, and marketing through the in-game, it's going to do good. I mean, that's just the way the gaming industry is. But as far as locked DLC on disc, they've been doing it for a long time, guys. We're just now hearing about it. And Capcom's notorious about that. But, Travis, what do you think about that?
So the locked on disc DLC, I understand why they're doing it. And, I have a little bit of disposable income, so it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me as it does a lot of other consumers. And I can understand that the consumer who doesn't have the disposable income to, oh, fuck, whatever. Do I like it? No. I think, the whole concept of DLC is such in its infancy. I mean, this is the first generation, period, of the DLC. So, they've got to work out their business strategies to, complement it. Now, you see games like Kingdoms of Amalur where DLC is good. You see games where the content's already on the disc and you've already paid for the game, the $65, and then they say, okay, well, we actually hid stuff on the disc that we're going to sell you later. And they come up with excuses like, oh, it costs money to put it up on PSN and Xbox Live, or oh, we don't want, you to have to download this big monster file later on. They're just excuses. Realistically, they haven't figured out the proper means of dispensing DLC is what it really boils down to. And the reason why that is, at least from my take on it, is because right now, games still exist in the brick and mortar retail facilities. And because of that, you have two types of demographics. You have the people who buy their games at a store and the handful of games that are bought online. But yet those games that are bought online, not all of them, but a good majority of them, still cost about the same price as if you bought the damn disc. And that should not be the case. If you buy a game online, it should be significantly cheaper. There's no shipping, no warehousing, no retailer, no distribution centers. You're distributing a primary file. There's no printing. It's all one setup. So those should be radically cheaper in price, and the developer and the publisher makes significantly more money. Now, because of that is not the way it is, they're trying to produce all these creative ways to get people to buy their disc and recoup their costs. And with every new product or every new invention, there's going to be a whole bunch of bad ideas until they get the right idea. And locked on disc, locked DLC is one of those bad ideas. It's not good for the consumer, but for the industry to grow, they have to experiment until they find what's right. There's going to be eventually come that happy medium where consumers are like, okay, what I buy online or I buy the retail copy is going to be worth the price that I'm getting, and anything else I can justify it because it goes above and beyond what I already purchased. They're going to eventually come to that point, but it's such a new concept that right now people get all up in arms because it's new and they figure, I used to spend this amount and I got all this shit in that title, and it's changed. And change scares people, and change upsets people. It's just the way, the nature of humans is that this shit changes us, and some people can't handle change, so they get all frustrated. One, especially when it directly impacts their pocket. If it impacts their wallet, and it's a change, and they figure it's going to hurt my wallet, they're going to get upset. But the only way for that to get fixed is for, people to dabble and, pull those levers until they find what's right.
Right. Well, I mean, we've talked about this before. I've got no problem in the future of games going digital and versus on disc if it's going to be cheaper, quicker, and faster to get your product. But, that's a whole different topic. But as far as the DLC on disc, again, it's 50-50 with me. It doesn't really bother me. I'm not a huge DLC guy. I'm only big into DLC, but, I'm more into, expansions, like what Battlefield 3 is doing with Close Quarters coming out. And then they got 2 other expansions, which are, basically mini games within the game, which is cool. They're not just giving you a couple maps here or a new weapon here. They're giving you all new scenarios, which is fine. But as far as DLC on the disc, it is what it is. I know people hate it. I know Dragon's not too happy about it. But at the end of the day, I don't know. It's really not that big of a deal to me. But let them do what they got to do to make money. Hey, we should just be happy that we're still gaming nowadays, because you never know. Sometimes things could change and the gaming industry could be heading into a right direction, or it could go into a very tainted, pirated world that we live in, and things are getting really scary out there. They always say that the internet is a great thing, but it's also opening doors for all this piracy, internet threats, internet terror, all this crazy stuff. And I mean, look, they've already patched the Vita twice for security measures for hacking into games. So I mean, the internet's it's malicious, but developers got to do what they got to do to save some money, cut some corners, and if that's what they got to do is lock the DLC on disc to get around certain things, so be it, whatever. But at the end of the day, they're going to do what they're going to do, and we're just going to have to find out later, and then we decide if it's worth bitching about or not. So
True that.
But anyways, guys, so listen, great podcast tonight. We're going to wrap it up tonight. Check us out, like us on Facebook, check out the website gamerswagger.com, and feel free to ask any one of us questions on Twitter. Other than that, we are out.
Peace.